This video is going to double as a 100 subscriber special, as well as a 10 best songs by Rush, according to me. There'll be some jump timestamps in the description, as well as other information. The jump stamps will help navigate through the video. Thanks to anybody and everybody who subscribes and listens to this, even if you don't subscribe, if you just listen to this. I love music, as the name of the channel suggests, but I really do. I love listening to music. I love talking about music. So this is fun for me to do. If other people think it's fun, other people like it, I hope you enjoy it, but thank you. Also with this video, I'd like to try something new. I want to talk about what I think are the top 10 songs for Rush. If this is cool and people like it, I would like to maybe do this with other bands too. And I'll start a running list of what the top songs are for all these different bands, talk about the band a little bit, what I think about them, give the history that I know, and then talk about what I think are the best 10 songs. Start with Rush. Rush, I think, is the best band of all time, should be considered everybody's best band of all time. I'm realistic that everybody's got their own opinion, and they are a little bit of an acquired taste, although I think they are the best. I saw them for the first time in '96 on the Test for Echo tour. I was a youngling. I had seen the Beach Boys and I had seen Kiss before that, which are both pretty awesome bands. And something about Rush just opened something in me musically. It was just a crazy experience, and I had seen every tour they've done that I was able to go to since then. I was a kid, so it wasn't always easy, but I made sure I knew what was going on with them. The last tour that they did, I knew it was the last show I was seeing. I cried walking out of the arena. I cried driving home. I cried when I learned that Neil died. I love Rush. Rush fans in general are known as being pretty diehard. They're known as being the Trekkies of music, like Star Trek fans of the music world. And I think that is pretty accurate in many ways, for sure. So some of the history of Rush: they were officially started from a publication standpoint. 1974 was their first album. Their last studio album was in 2012. And in that time frame between 74 and 2012, they made 19 albums, a few EPs. One EP was 10 or 12 songs that were all cover songs called Feedback. So they had a pretty lengthy career from a studio perspective. Their very first album, they did have a different drummer, but from their second album on, they had Neil Peart, who is considered by many to be one of the best, if not the best drummer of all time. He's also the lyricist, wrote the lyrics for pretty much all the songs that they did. Alex and Geddy, which are the guitar player and bass player, they started playing together, I believe, in the late 60s, but it was in 74 with John Rutsey, who was the original drummer. They did their first album. What this top 10 does is it will take all those studio albums, all 19 from 74 to 2012. This isn't meant to be a greatest hits necessarily. This isn't meant to be what was the most commercially friendly. This is what I like to listen to the best. This is what I like as their best songs. A way I'm thinking about this is, if I could never listen to Rush again, if I was on a desert island, so to speak, and I had to use 10 songs as the 10 songs to remember them by, what are those 10 songs going to be? If I had to somehow introduce them to somebody and they didn't know anything about them, and I wanted them to judge them as best I could, and these are the 10 songs I would present. That's kind of how I'm thinking about this. Far Cry from 2007, Snakes and Arrows. So this song, I really think it's the live version of this song, and hearing it live is maybe what makes it number 10. Man, putting a song as number 10 on this was really hard. Number 9 through 1 were pretty easy, but 10 was hard. So there's this part where they're talking about the circuits breaking or the circuits blowing in the song, something like that. It's a transition from one part to the next. And when they do it live, rockets go off. Like literally, it sounds like rockets. It's just an explosion with fire usually. And it sounds amazing. They say the circuit's blowing and then it blows. And that experience, something about that, I hear it like in my head. I see it in my head when I hear the song. It's a great song live. It's one of their, more recent songs in terms of their catalog towards the end of their career. I think I read somewhere that Alex, the guitar player, said that it was really easy for them to write. It came naturally. Sounds like a very typical Rush song. It embodies the energy very well of, like, I feel like the live Rush experience. I think if you asked AI to take a Rush song and make it sound like a 2000s Rush songs, take all their stuff, make a typical Rush song in the 2000s style, I think this is what it would do. It would make Far Cry. Anthem from 1975 off Fly By Night. This is a very rocky song, not so proggy, so to speak, in terms of not really progressive rock, more of a typical rock and roll kind of song. It's early Rush. This was a an opener often, I think, for them live. It opened the album Fly By Night, and then I think it was used in a lot of the early recordings I hear from, you know, like the mid 70s. You hear this song. Anthem was the name of an Ayn Rand book, which was the inspiration for a lot of Neil Peart's lyrics. And this song, I think, has become, you know, kind of an anthem for Rush fans too. Again, it's being an opener is kind of it's an early anthem to start. You know, these guys started Rush. That is, these guys Rush started opening for Kiss early in their career, and I'm pretty sure when these guys came out and played this, there's talk of, you know, Kiss not being a huge fan of Rush opening just because of how professional and awesome sounding they were. And this is an awesome song to open a show with. You hear it mixed right, and they're in their groove. I don't think Kiss liked Anthem being a song that they had to, you know, go play after night. And they didn't. They didn't play for open for Kiss for very long before they kicked them off the tour, I believe. Lines from 1981's Moving Pictures. This song has a very, like, I guess, reggae sounding vibe is the best way to describe it. If you think of bands like The Police, they have a lot of songs that have kind of a reggae tone. Oh, they're not a reggae band, but they have many songs that have that kind of feel and vibe, whether it's the instruments and like the echo and the way they're played and how they're played, or, you know, the actual style of the singing and what they're saying. Rush doesn't have that often. This is one of the few reggae sounding songs, and it's done in the most Rush way possible. And I think that's what I like about this song is, you know, it sounds like Rush, but it also sounds like super sophisticated reggae. When they want to sound like anything, they kind of can. And it's not because it's not a common theme. This song always stood out to me. You know, I don't like that. It's a little pet peeve of mine. This song, I feel like it's compared to The Police. I Just Did It. You hear about Andy Summers and all these kind of cool voicings and chords he uses. I mean, man, everything Andy Summers does, Alex Lifeson did, typically in many cases years before he did. So, you know, it's just Andy did it in a little bit more of a, I think, poppy, radio-friendly way for the time, and Rush just did whatever Rush wanted to do, which is part of the reason I love Rush so much. Face Up from 1991, Roll the Bones. This is probably the most overlooked song that I'm going to have on this list. I don't know that this is really on a lot of like greatest hits. It's not really featured live a lot, I don't believe. But I really like this song, Face Up. It's very a more poppy sounding song. It's a more fun sounding Rush song. I love Rush, but a lot of their songs aren't fun. Either the lyrics, the changes in them, they're not necessarily fun. Is the right word to use to describe a lot of them. And this is a more fun song. This sounds like Fly By Night is a song a lot of people know. It's a shorter, more straightforward, rocky, fun song. And this is like an 80s, 90s version of Fly By Night by Rush. And I've always really liked it. I don't think many Rush fans are active in the gym, but if they were, this would be a really good song to listen to if you're trying to be active and go and work out. You know, I don't know why it's not more popular in the Rush world. I think Dreamline and Bravado were also on this this album, well, and Roll the Bones. So I think they were just overshadowed maybe by some of those other songs. But I love Face Up. I think it's the best song on this album. Headlong Flight from 2012's Clockwork Angels. This is going to be the newest song on the list. It's also, being the newest, it's one of the probably heaviest, fastest Rush songs in general on this list, and of probably the catalog, you know, of Rush as a whole. So this song, I remember I was going to see them the last tour, and this was one of the first songs they played, and it was a little far away from where I lived. There was traffic. We were just getting there. We were trying to get into the arena. And there's this bass intro to this song, and it has a delay that the Edge would be jealous of, I believe. Then I'm hearing this bass come from the Coliseum that I'm trying to get into, and it's like some Lord of the Rings, you know, like when the horns are blowing and you just hear it. It's just such a badass tone, this bass and the echo it has. When Rush wants to be badass, they can be badass, even if it's, you know, towards the end of the days of, you know, writing new music and putting out new music. And it's just, I think if this song, if I did this in 10 years from now, this might be higher on the list. It's just, because it is newer. There's other songs, even as young as I am, as young and spry as I am, other songs just have more staying power in my heart. But Headlong Flight is a great song. 2112, the title track from 1976's album. So Rush is going to make their fourth album. They're being told basically they got to be more commercially successful or they're done. And instead of writing shorter, simpler, more radio-friendly songs, they say, hold my Ayn Rand novel, and they write a 20-minute plus epic. I think it's 7 parts. And, you know, if you want to say what's Rush and you got 20 minutes, then just play this. It's a beautiful, epic song. All 7 parts on their own are great, and then they go together amazing. The Starman, you know, the silhouette of a guy, you know, in front of this star is what everybody knows from Rush. It comes from this album. When you see this song live, sometimes they do the whole 20 minutes, but I mean, it's a lot of music to play, especially when they're getting older. So oftentimes they would truncate and just play the first 2 parts. The first 2 parts are often considered more of like the single, so to speak. And then those first 2 parts, they have a whole bunch of things where there's crowd interaction. It's cool because you can really tell who's the real Rush fan or not because you yell, yeah, like, yeah, at these like rhythmic parts, but you got to know the song. And man, when everybody's doing that, you just feel a part of something. And man, what a great song. The other songs on this album itself are often overlooked because of this epic. There's still a few more songs on the B side, so to speak. This was 76. They still had A sides and B sides. But man, it's just such a great song, great album. It is 20 minutes. So if it wasn't 20 minutes, maybe it would be a little bit higher up. The Trees, 1978 Hemispheres. This is going to be probably the song that is the most similar to anybody else's list. If you're going to go online, you're going to search the best Rush songs, you're probably going to see The Trees up there. You're probably going to see 2112 up there too. But The Trees I saw often around number 10 or in the top 10, but usually higher than number 4. It's okay for other people to be wrong. It's top 5 Rush for sure. The lyrics alone, I mean, make this song so amazing. I think Neil Peart said that in some drum magazine, he was quoted as saying that like lyrics just came to him one time. You know, it's a banger of a song because it's got a classical nylon guitar finger played by Alex, and it's got tempo blocks played as like little percussion parts. Both of those things are used in Rush songs when they're bangers, and then they're both in this. It's a super short song, but it is epic. It's such an epic, epic Rush song for being such a short song. How they're able to make such a, you know, really, again, epic is the best word to use for a song that's, you know, 3 minutes-ish compared to, you know, epic songs like 2112 that are 20 plus minutes. It's amazing. So if you only have 3 minutes to show somebody a Rush song, this is the song to show. Red Sector A, 1984, Grace Under Pressure. This song is very, very close to number 2. Number 2 and number 3 are flip-flopping back and forth in my mind, but this is where it ended up being. Probably just because this song was a little heavier. The subject matter of the song has to do with Geddy Lee's bass player's mother in the Holocaust, I believe. So some heavy subject matter in the lyrics. The music, it has this just very driving, consistent pulse with like the rhythmic section, and then the guitar has some of my favorite riffs of all of Rush. They're not riffs that are you know, riffy in a rock and roll style. This is more, to me, new wave meets prog rock, which is, I love all of Rush. So this was more the 80s style. And if I had to pick, a favorite time, this is high up on the list. This is going to be what I'm going to pick, probably, as like this era, this style of Rush. Even though, again, I don't know that there's really an era that they ever really had. But this song, it has a name that doesn't come from the lyrics. I think the name has something to do with NASA. And it is, spoiler alert, very close to another song on the list, number 2, that's from the same album. And I really like these songs interchangeably, almost the same. It's an Early Warnings, 1984, Grace Under Pressure. This is the first song on the album. It opens the album. It is, to me, the ultimate synth Rush song. A lot of people know Rush did get a little carried away at times with the synth in the 80s and some other times throughout the career too, but mostly in the 80s they used the synth a little more than sometimes they needed to. And this song just has the perfect amount of synth to go with everything else. This is the time with this album that Rush was really cranking a lot of stuff out. This was, I believe, the first producer that they used that was new in many years. And they were just kind of, all cylinders firing, the way they were supposed to. They were really tuned in at this time. And I love this song, and I love Red Sector A, and both of these songs to me are kind of counterbalances of the same era and time in Rush. They both together show you everything you need to know about Rush from the 80s as far as I'm concerned. And I like this a little bit better. That's why it's number 2. This is the song that gave Grace Under Pressure the name. The lyric comes from this song, and it is great. Natural Science, 1980, Permanent Waves. The best quintessential Rush song. If you don't have 20 minutes to listen to 2112, if you got about 9 minutes, you got half of that, go listen to this. Go listen to Natural Science. This is a 3-part song instead of a 7-part song. And the third part is Permanent Waves, which is where the album gets its name from. And it just does everything you need to know about a Rush song. Various moving parts, slow, beautiful, awesome sounding instruments making cool noises. They are very surreal and very ambient, really cool, odd time, meter change, rocky, fast parts, epic operatic parts, shreddy guitar solos, everything that you need in Rush. If you don't have 9 minutes, then The Trees is the next best. But if you can give someone 9 minutes and say, take this in, this is a band you're going to enjoy. This is the best band ever. This is their best song ever. Natural Science is what you're going to say, what you're going to do. This is the start of the 80s. Still had the 70s sound. They were just getting into some of the more 80s synth with the times. Again, it wasn't necessarily an era for Rush in the 80s with all the synth. It's what everyone did. They were just playing to what was naturally going on. And Natural Science is what I go to every time. Should be part of every high school, middle school science curriculum to listen to this song, study the lyrics. It is great. It is the best. Thanks for listening.